This is about Fritz Haber. I've been writing about scientists who were in a book I was reading. These people made discoveries in nature, sometimes physical parts of nature, sometimes more about the way that nature works. And they may have been geniuses, or they may have been the right person with the right problem at the right time. Either way, you could follow a history of science by studying the work of these people. There's another one, and I must discuss him because he has had tremendous impact on the world through his work, and that man is Fritz Haber, or Haber, I don't know, Haber. Born a Jew, Fritz Haber is not a celebrated figure in the pantheon of science. He is more like a skeleton in the closet. Heading into the 20th century, there was a sense that the world population was going to outstrip the food supply. The big problem in crop production was nitrogen. Nitrogen is an essential ingredient in the cellular structure of plants, and though there are trillions of tons of nitrogen on the planet, most of it is in the air, and there was no known way to make it accessible. Fertilizer was a scarce commodity then. Fritz Haber was a chemist who studied the problem until he came up with a way to extract nitrogen out of the air. He filled a huge, sturdy tank with nitrogen, heated it, and put it under great pressure. Then he introduced a steady supply of hydrogen gas. He opened up a tap at the bottom of the tank, and liquid nitrogen began to flow out in the form of ammonia. In no time at all, there was a virtually limitless supply, and crop production shot up, as did the human population, as did the lethal pollution, especially concentrated in streams, rivers, and estuaries. By the end of the century, with the human population still booming, the once fertile river deltas had become dead zones. Producing fertilizer made Haber rich and famous. He was hailed as a hero and a savior. He was awarded the 1918 Nobel Prize in Chemistry. He enjoyed the money and the celebrity. He was known as the man who had produced bread from the air. After the beginning of World War I, there was a call for more explosives. Haber knew that if he reversed his process, he could produce a vast supply of explosive material, and he did that. It made him richer than ever, and it extended the terrible war. Life was excellent for Haber. He was wealthy, famous, and he was promoted to the rank of captain and put in charge of research into chemical weapons. Bombs were not enough to win the war. Haber knew how to produce lethal chemical gases, and he was personally on the site and gave the order to release a huge cloud of yellow chlorine gas, which drifted into the wind over to the Allied position and resulted in thousands of deaths. Haber was proud of his weapon and its destructive capability, mustard gas. He even came up with what he called Haber's rule. It quantified the relationship of gas concentration, exposure time, and death rate. I'm surprised he didn't factor in the wind. His response to those who said the use of chemical weapons was immoral and inhuman was that death was death, and in a war, a scientist served his country. Haber's wife also had a PhD in chemistry, but she'd had to leave research to raise their son. She was also a pacifist, and it is said that she was horrified by the work of her husband. There are various stories about her confronting him, but it is certain that she shot herself with his service revolver and died. Years later, her son also committed suicide, as did one of his daughters. Another daughter wrote a book, A History of Chemical Warfare. Haber remarried, had another family, and continued to do research on chemical weapons. His lab eventually produced what would become Zyklon B, a gas used to exterminate Jews in concentration camps, including members of his own family. By then, in the later 1930s, because he was Jewish, he was not in favor in Germany. He went to England for a short time, then traveled in Europe, where he died of a stroke in a hotel room. He had exemplified the best and worst of science in the productions of his work, feeding millions of people with his fertilizer, killing millions of others with his lethal gas. Fritz Haber seemed to be a man we would like to forget, but he is really a man we need to remember.